What's up guys, my name is Double, and today we are going to jump into the new balance patch that just hit Korea. However, I'm not just going to be reading down the list. This is going to be a much more interactive video. So stay tuned and let's get into these W's, boys and girls. It would only be right to start out with Berserkers because they got so many changes, but I'm going to cover the biggest ones right now. Berserker's technique, which this is what I currently play on my Berserker, and it's so much fun, and if you haven't ever played it, I highly suggest you to. But the big W's are that we got a small damage buff, 36% from 32% on the engraving, which is huge. And now we instead get our bars very, very quickly at the trade-off that it doesn't last quite as long. However, I think it's a good trade-off because the way the boss fights go, this just seems more natural and you can pick your burst windows a little bit better. Plus, at 1400 spec, you can get your entire burst to last a minute and 13 seconds, while it only takes not even a full rotation of all your skills, but about 6 of them to get that full bar, which is about 9 seconds, which is crazy. So check this out. But that is not the only change Berserkers are getting. For example, Mayhem is also getting a little buff to its damage reduction, and it's now going to be 70% instead of 65%, so you won't be quite as squishy going into Mayhem, which is always a plus. I felt like the trade-off between speed and everything was pretty good. I wish they would have just gotten a damage buff, but the damage reduction is also really good. Plus, now that Strike Wave is gone, thank goodness, the most awkward and clunky skill, and I feel like out of any characters I've ever played in this game, it is gone, and now it is replaced with a skill called Overdrive, and it is a charge-up skill, very similar to that, but it is freaking sick. Check this out. Plus, there's a ton of new animation changes. As you've seen in this video, the UI looks a little bit different, and it is so sweet. I'm so excited to play this after the update comes out. It sucks that we have to wait a couple months, but it'll be here eventually, and it's gonna be so sweet. Let's get on to my favorite class in the whole game, Glaivier. This is my main, or one of my mains, I guess. My other main is my Gunslinger, but this is like my main. And there is a small W, but I feel like it's actually a bigger W than most people might think, because yes, the big change on the engraving is that it will give 2% at level 3, of course, at a level 3 engraving. It'll give 2% extra damage on your skills on blue and red. But on the engraving, these stats scale with your spec. So higher spec means higher damage. I'm thinking that it's not just going to be a 2% damage buff. I think that it's going to be much higher than that, maybe somewhere around the 4, 5, or 6% range. But of course, more testing is going to be needed to find out. That's a lot of percentages within percentages within percentages and all that kind of stuff. I'm not even going to try to figure that out, but I know that it's not just going to be a base 2% damage increase. Now to the Gunslinger, which there are some awesome changes that I'm so glad happened. The biggest one for me that always used to annoy the hell out of me is when I'm using Meteor Stream, for example, boom, and you dodge, and as soon as you dodge, there's no damage taking place, period. So you can fire it, the bullets are in the air, dodge, nothing. That has been changed. Now, when the bullets are in the air, you can dodge out and they will still continue to hit. So thank goodness for that. They changed some of the tripods in Focus Shot and Perfect Shot, which is really, really cool because with Perfect Shot, what they did was they, instead of just doing damage with this kill confirmation here, only adding the extra damage when a boss's HP is below 50%, now it gives a damage buff even before that, plus it gives almost the same amount of damage buff when the enemy's health is below 50% as well. But the way that they moved the percentages around, you will be doing more damage throughout the whole fight this way, which is really good. So it's definitely a buff for that. As well as Focus Shot, they changed double tap so that the second shot fired is the special bullet instead of the third. So right now it's the 1, 2, 3rd right there, and then it fires the last shot. But now it is going to be the second bullet, so it's going to go boom, special fire, and then it's going to fire the whole thing. So there's only 3 shots total now instead of 4. So that's going to be really nice because it's going to decrease the amount of animation time. And lastly, the big change that I've been waiting for on Time to Hunt is it's so goofy because on Time to Hunt it says handgun and rifle skills crit rate is plus 45%, right? But that doesn't apply to your awakening skill. So now with that crit buff applying globally, it is going to apply to the awakening, which is massive. So you'll be creating most of the time, and it's going to be another big source of damage. Let's move on to blades, and this has been getting a little bit of controversy. There's been some people that are a little upset, but I feel like it's a just change, and that is to the synergy of blades. So typically they would give 12% total for head and back attackers increased damage, which is pretty damn good. But now it has been nerfed. Now the total that they'll be receiving is 9%, which really falls in line with the damage buff that I believe Sorks give 8% of a flat damage buff from their synergy. So that's, you know, falling in line pretty close to that. And now they give a 4%, the blades, they give a 4% overall damage buff to everyone. I think that that's a good change. And now parties will not gatekeep so much just for the head and back attack classes, and they'll be much more open to taking other synergies as well, the flat damage buff synergies or classes. So that's good. And I think that also the remaining energy buff is also very, very good. So previously, you could run remaining energy 1, no problem. You could run it with Cursed Doll. You could even run it with Keen Blunt. But the big drawback of running remaining energy 1 instead of remaining energy 3 is that it is not as comfortable to play because you're missing out on 6% attack and move speed. And the move speed you really do feel. The attack speed you don't feel too much because you have supercharge and all those other things. But the move speed you really feel. And I had to get used to that. I'm so glad that they made this change though, because used to, as it is now, there's only an 11% difference in damage from going a level 1 to a level 3 engraving. And that's why you could use a level 1 remaining energy and go with Cursed Doll, which is 16% extra attack power flat, or you can go with something that like Keen Blunt. And for me, that's giving me about somewhere between 14 to 16, 17% extra damage that I've parsed in Trixian. So again, that is better than running remaining energy 3 at this 11% difference. But now the difference between level 1 and level 3 is from 33 to 48. That's 15%. So in my opinion, I think that it is going to be a much better option to run remaining energy 3. It's going to feel much better, and the damage is going to be comparable. It's going to be very similar to a level 1 or remaining energy 1 build that has an extra damage engraving in there. So my plan, since I'm running RE1 right now, is whenever Ancient Gear comes out, Brelshaws a hard, I am definitely going to be looking to go 5x3+1 with a level 3 remaining energy build, and I'll likely run Adrenaline 1. That is, I think, an overall good change, and I'm really looking forward to that. Moving on to Reaper. So they got a pretty good buff as well, which I was pretty excited about this because I play a Swiftness Hunger Reaper and I really enjoy playing this class. So I'm glad that they gave it a little bit of a buff with Rage Spear, and Rage Spear is this skill. And then they also gave a 4.4% buff to Glowing Brand, which is the jumping skill that I love so much. They gave like a 1.2% damage increase to Silent Rage, which is this skill. And then they also gave a 3.8% buff to Dance of Fury, which is this skill. And I'm definitely excited to see what that looks like for Reaper. Now that I've covered most of the classes that I play regularly, we're going to go over some of the ones that I don't and hit those key points as well. So as far as Artillerist, they reduce the rate of the firepower meter reduction. So it goes down slower after that set amount of time. When you haven't done any skills, it'll go down slower, which is really good. Plus, it usually takes 6 seconds for that meter to go from, like, let's say it's firepower level 3 all the way up. It'll take longer for it to start decreasing, which is a huge buff as well. So that's really good for firepower artillerists and for barrage artillerists as well, because the firepower meter still dictates damage of the skills too. So it's good for both classes, so that's really awesome. And then for scouter, 8% damage buff of the normal skills, and I do not believe that applies to your sync skills in your transformation form. So this is really just for the AT variant of the scouter, but apparently it's looking real nice and it's doing some freaking damage, which is really good. I don't play AT Scouter, so I can't comment on it personally, but I've heard a lot of people that are saying it's very, very solid. For Arcana, there's been no changes, which is really, really good. So they're just gonna keep doing big freaking deeps, which is awesome. I'm sure they are very glad. I was thinking about making an Arcana, but it just, the whole card deck thing, I don't know. We'll see what happens though in the future. As far as Gunlancer goes, a lot of big wins with a Gunlancer, especially with the animations. I saw some last night and they look freaking sick. So if you want to see those, Google them, but they look really cool. They look like really good changes as far as visually. And they got a lot of damage buffs, and now all around the skills just make a little bit more sense, and the character seems to flow a little bit better. So that's obviously a big W for Gunlancers. As far as bards are concerned, I don't play bard, I only play paladin. So for the bards, they got some animation changes and a few skill changes as well, but again, definitely a plus. Now I will say on a side note that both supports got a damage increase, but who freaking cares? Like, let's be honest, a 10 or 8 or whatever percent increase for a support. How often are you actually damaging the boss for the purpose of damaging a boss and not to build meter? Not that often. So yeah, it's a W, but doesn't really affect that much, I don't think. As far as demonic goes, Shadowhunter, the normal skills have all, or most of the bigger damage ones have been buffed, which is going to help the perfect suppression build. However, I don't think that it's going to be enough. I feel like they need to do an overhaul of all of those skills to make it really enticing to play a Shadowhunter with perfect suppression, because as it is now, it's just not that much fun, in my opinion, to play it. There's not that many like ooh awe moments. There's not really an it factor to that class to be playing it, and that's why I personally don't play it. I found it super boring when I was playing perfect suppression in tier 1 and tier 2, so haven't really gone back to that. Moving on to Hawkeye. This is a mixed bag. From the people that play it, they've kind of said that it's great that they got a rework. Some skill changes were really good, like Snipe, for example, no longer does a little bit of baby damage for more numbers or for a few hits, but now it just does one big hit and it actually shows up. So it's much more satisfying to see that one big number. And that's just an example of one of the skill reworks, but they also got some other reworks as well within their engraving system and how spec scales with Loyal Companion now, and a lot of other stuff. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't actually play the class, but unfortunately it seems that they haven't really hit the mark with this change, as a lot of the people that do play Hawkeye are pretty upset with it and they don't really feel like it's a great change. So hopefully after the next 2 weeks of Smilegate observing these changes in action and probably receiving some of the feedback from the players, that they can make some better changes going forward for this class. But that is everything for this video. Let me know which class you are excited to try out after watching this video and seeing some of the upcoming changes that are going to apply to us for the Western version, I believe in March. For me, I'm insanely pumped for Berserker. I'm going to push that on my alt account. I'm going to start working on it now because I'm super, super excited for it. All in all, I really do like the changes that they're making. I like that there's not that many nerfs and just a lot of buffs and things that kind of make your class feel better, right? Feel more smooth. I like that. In my opinion, they do have some extra things to definitely work on for the going forward in the future to make things a little more balanced, but I think that this is overall a step in the right direction. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you on the next video. Hopefully it's going to be a video about me pushing my weapon from 1505 to 1580 on my glaive. We'll see if that happens. I'm stocking up. But guys, catch you on the next one.